Georgia just received 250 million euros from the war in 2008. Here's exactly what that means and how it will impact Georgia's financial future. Of course, if you stick until the end of the video, you will understand exactly how Georgia will utilize this money and why it really doesn't matter as much as the media makes it out to. Hello and welcome back to Traveling Reports. Today we're going over why 250 million euros was given to Georgia as reparations for the 2008 war in Samachablo, also known as South Ossetia internationally, and predominantly because of the information warfare brought forth by Russia, as well as in Abkhazia, which was a continuation of the ethnic cleansing done in the 1990s. Oftentimes, when I speak with Georgians and I communicate about the reparations which were refused initially, even by the EU, as the EU actually, fun fact, denied that Russia was the aggressor. They denied that Georgia did not start the war. And this goes into why Georgia is super pro-US on the ground, if not more pro-US than pro-EU. However, of course, that's a topic for another video. That said, when you're looking at the war, to give you some pretext, many Georgians died. About 3,000 Georgians died in the war in 2008, both directly and indirectly. And hundreds of thousands of folks were displaced. And this was one of the most bloody wars in such a short period of time, and it was one of the first wars Russia decided to do after the fall of the USSR. It is a war that was realistically something that Russia wanted to bully Georgia and bully the increasing westward trajectory of the Saakashvili government. And Saakashvili was truly a US-aligned personality. And so, of course, when you look at how Russia intercepted the war, they armed militia to have border skirmishes. And Georgia eventually reacted by shelling with artillery some of the areas in Samachablo, as they were deemed to be too dangerous to get into border skirmishes with. And so after this was the case, Russia, citing protection for the Ossetian minority, at this point it was a minority in what they called South Ossetia, what Georgia calls Samachablo, and so there was tanks that got as far as 30 kilometers from Tbilisi. And then a US peace treaty was signed within 3 days. And oftentimes, when a US peace treaty is signed, they assign guilt. In this circumstance, Switzerland, the EU, and many Western partners stated that Georgia started the war. Georgia created the first shot. And so, with these reparations, it is an inherent 180 in the belief structure from the European Union. It is an inherent divestment in their stance towards Georgia and towards, as well, the fact that Georgia created the war. Now, I've always known that Georgia didn't start the war. It's fairly easy to tell that it would be stupid for Georgia to start the war in Samachablo as the vast majority of Georgia's best units were not in Georgia. They were in Iraq, with US forces, predominantly, training to obviously defend their homelands, and also, of course, help the US in Iraq. Now, the Iraq War was a mistake from the Georgian perspective, and I'll get into that as well in another video. And of course, if you're looking forward to that, please feel free to subscribe. But when you look at the totality of it, Georgia had no incentive to obviously attack Russia or Russian forces or even Ossetians. And of course, when looking at Kaspi, when looking at Gori, these are major cities for Georgia, and inherently they are very valuable to Georgia. And so they wouldn't risk that. And so finally, the European Union has decided to overturn their initial perspective and give Georgia 250 million euro in reparations. So with this, of course, what does this mean for the economy? Well, it means slightly less debt, realistically, and that's it, because the vast majority of that will go to corrupt means, especially under the present government. It will predominantly go to public-private partnerships, which, of course, if you don't know what a public-private partnership is, I will tell you on the channel. I have a video linked. It won't be linked down below, but it's on my channel. So if you want to go watch that video, feel free to seriously check out my channel. I would appreciate it. That said, the vast majority of this money will be squandered. The vast majority of Georgia's government is sanctioned precisely because of the squandering of funds and the inherent lack of accountability towards funds. However, I think we should culminate with the fact that as time goes on, Georgia is getting so many different opportunities to leave the orbit of Russian aggression. However, they don't take it. And this has to do with somewhat the Georgian defeatist mentality, which of course, again, I created a video on. But if you want to protect your assets and you don't want to worry about these trying times, feel free to reach out, book a call, one-on-one, absolutely free for 15 minutes, and I would be happy to go over your specific situation. That said, if you liked this video, feel free to like it. If you really liked this video, feel free to share it with your friends. If you are looking to join me on this journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to subscribe. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.